Hey, do you remember who went first last time? Because for the life of me, I can't remember. Oh, hey everyone. I'm Dustin Bass with the Sons of History. Now, every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Central Time, I do a show on Instagram Live. Now, I'd love it if you'd join me on Instagram on Thursday nights, but until then, you can watch all of the previously recorded episodes here on YouTube. So, while you're enjoying this conversation, I'm going to be enjoying a little game of chess with my good friend Thomas Jefferson. And don't worry, Abraham Lincoln is here just to keep us honest. Anyways, I hope you enjoy the show. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so we have a very special guest on the show tonight. It is going to be Jacqueline Thomas. She is the current reigning Miss Arizona. Really looking forward to having her on the show. I believe that she is more than ready to get on here, so I'm going to quickly send her an invite here. And here we go. There we go. Hey, how's it going?
Hi, good. How are you?
I'm fantastic. It's good to see you.
Yes, you too. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Yeah, no problem. Well, thanks for joining. Yeah, so it's gonna be this should be a lot of fun. How are you doing, by the way, out in Arizona?
We're good. Our governor opened things back up during the month of May and June, and he has since closed certain things again, specifically that young people are doing, things that I particularly care about, most importantly, the gym. And
Yeah.
then all the bars are closed, restaurants, we're still doing a lot of social distancing, but our COVID cases are going down. So hopefully the mandate is working.
Yeah, hopefully so. Yeah, we've had a little bit of that over here in Texas. Not too happy about it. A lot of indecision going on with our governor and people doing whatever it is that they do. I have not been too pleased. Sort of flipped out on the people that, not flipped out, but gave the people at the gym a little what for because they wanted to scan for a temp. And I'm like, look, I'm already wearing the mask. Now you're invading the space, and there's gonna be an issue there. Well, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the conversation. You are the reigning Miss Arizona. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
Definitely, congratulations are in order. Um, Now, me personally, I'm never going to have the experience of being crowned Miss Arizona because I live in Texas. But what is that? What does that feel like?
I competed for the title of Miss Arizona for 6 years. So having that crowning moment last summer as 2019, it was actually a huge sigh of relief that I had won. It was really interesting because they, as in the formers, always say that you win the year that you're at peace about it. You're like, you know what? Whatever happens this year, I have done everything that I know how to do, and it is perfectly fine. I'm going to be okay. I'm going to move on with my life. And I think that God has a sense of humor because it seems to me within this past year that whenever I have felt like, okay, I don't need this, I'm good with it, He gives it to you. So I think that that's kind of an interesting concept for us as humans to ponder.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think he does have a sense of humor. He made me, and he made a couple of my friends. Joe Wolverton, he's an Arizona native. He's been on the show a couple of times. He's on the show right now, or he's watching right now. But and my good friend Alan, who is the other Sons of History, he's watching. So God, yes, definitely has a sense of humor. Let me ask you, what does the Miss Arizona platform actually allow you to do in order to impact other people's lives?
So the Miss America organization will be celebrating their 100th anniversary in the year next year, 2021. And it was designed, I mean, it's evolved over the period of time, but for the last several decades, it is a platform for women to grow personally, professionally, and for them to advance themselves personally and serve the community. And those are really the core assets of the Miss America organization.
Yeah.
I've also heard it referred to as a modern day finishing program. depending on how much time you spend in the program. I feel like I started the program as a girl and now I'm a woman, just because of the life experience that you get, the people that you meet, the different social situations that you're put in. I love the title because it actually strips you of titles, ironically enough, and it gives you a seat at the table with other people that you would never have met otherwise, whether it's because of your background or what side of the political aisle you fall on, or, you know, whatever your story is.
Yeah.
And I've been able to work with really incredible people throughout this entire year, not just as Miss Arizona, but my 6 years as a local title holder as well, working to become Miss Arizona. And the program is just unparalleled with the professional and personal development for women.
So who are, I know some of the people, because I've, you know, done a little research on you before getting you on the show. So I know a couple of the people that you've met, but name some of the people that that this winning Miss Arizona has allowed you to encounter and possibly be able to speak into their ears about certain things that you would like to see done.
The first people that come to mind are the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. I was doing another podcast interview in the same like co-working space where their office is. And in passing, I was able to meet the guy who heads their business development. And they were, long story short, holding a women's initiative, because here in the state of Arizona, we have so many Hispanic and specifically women-owned Hispanic businesses. And this event was an initiative to promote them, how we can work together as the community and provide more opportunities for women. And I never would have thought that me as Jacqueline, even though I'm an Arizona native, would be able to sit at the table with the CEO of the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah. Now, so you had the Commerce Chamber of Commerce. You also got to sit down and talk with the two senators from Arizona. What was that like?
That was an incredible experience. So I interned in Washington, D.C. in 2016. And that year I didn't compete in Miss Arizona because your residency has to be here in Arizona. You can't leave for the summer. But that year, Miss America Orientation was held in Washington, D.C. And the directors are the same directors that I have now. They knew that I was there, that I was involved, and I helped them connect the Miss Arizona at the time with our Arizona congressional representatives and also senators, which at that time was John McCain. So that was a really, really special experience. And that was 4 years ago. And ever since that moment, that was a moment that I was like, oh, I really want to get serious about this. I see the impact that Miss Arizona can have, who she can meet, the changes she can implement, what she does for the community. And I had kind of started planning that in my head 4 years ago. So to have that dream come to fruition 4 years later, and to be able to sit in conversations with our female senators, our two first female senators from Arizona, was a really incredible experience. They're both wonderful women. They want great things for the state of Arizona. They just have different ways of getting there because they're on both sides of the political aisle.
Right.
And they were so welcoming. The thing about being Miss Arizona as well is that it opens doors that are harder without the title. So I always say, especially to girls that don't win or get in the top 5 or first runner up, because it breaks my heart, because I've been there. I was second runner up the year that I won Miss Arizona, and it's just it's so hard. But the thing I want to tell all those girls is that you can do anything that you want to do without the title. And that's the whole point of the program as well, you know, because there can only be one winner. There can only be one Miss America out of our 51 candidates across the entire country, 51 including District of Columbia. But that's the wonderful thing about Miss Arizona, is that it opens doors that would have been harder to open on your own. And then you have people that come around you that advocate for you and help you. And it's kind of like, they call it the best internship of your life. And you have people surrounding you that are encouraging you, and they want to see you succeed, because you succeeding means that the community is succeeding, and that the women that come after you are succeeding.
Right. Well, so I listened to one of your interviews, and you made mention that there's Miss America and Miss America 2.0. What do you mean by that? Or is that an actual thing? Like it's no longer Miss America, it's actually Miss America 2.0. Everybody get on board. What is it? What does that mean? What's the difference?
So there's still, it's the same organization. Miss America 2.0 is a rebranding campaign that the national organization started over the last couple of years. So they were calling it Miss America 2.0 because they changed the way that the competition works. They took out the swimsuit competition. This year, my year at Miss America, they took out the evening gown portion of the competition. And also, the main reason why they took out those two elements was to judge you on merit rather than what you look like. So when we say Miss America 2.0, it's like kind of this rebirth, this rebranding for Miss America to like bring it into the 21st century.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I mean, I think that is definitely a positive move in the right direction. And I think it sort of eliminates some of the perceptions that people may have had about Miss America altogether, whether true or not.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the question that always gets brought up is regarding the swimsuit competition. There's still a lot of debate over that. The whole point of removing those specific points of competition, which competition or evening gown will be reintroduced this next competition cycle. That was a little bit of an experiment on their part. But the whole point was to be more inclusive, and women that wouldn't have competed otherwise when there was a swimsuit competition now will compete. So
Yeah.
it's just trying to make it more diverse, more broad, and also I see a comment a little bit less prejudiced. Yes, the thing that was really made a point of this year, my year Miss America, was that we weren't being judged on our looks. You know, we turned in business professional resumes. I turned in at least 10 different essays on my community service, my resume, my passion projects, like what's coming next, what I would do with the title, fundraising, all these different things. And they're really painting it as a job rather than a pageant title, because it is a job. You can ask any state title holder, any Miss America. It is more than full-time job without coronavirus. It's a little bit different right now. We're all doing our jobs from home now.
Right.
But that's the thing, to just really bring it into this like women's empowerment era.
Okay. So let's say, like, if I were to give a suggestion on, like, okay, let's bring the swimsuit back. I think if you do that, let's have like a 100-meter relay or a high dive competition to throw it in there. You know, you'll still have the merit that you have to have to beat everybody else.
Well, I mean, I grew up playing sports. I'm very competitive. I love going to the gym, like I mentioned earlier, with our governor's mandate. So I would be all for that, because I think you legitimately have to have fortitude to be able to do this job. Like, I think about the year 2019, and just a year ago this week, there was the national teen competition, Miss America's Outstanding Teen, and my teen, her name's Caitlin. She got first runner-up to the national title, so we're extremely proud of her. She's insanely talented, intelligent, and incredible dancer. But that seems like a completely different life. That, you know, we went to these big events, especially in the time between when you win in these national competitions. Your schedule is just jam-packed, like probably like an average of 4 to 5 hours of sleep. You're always here in makeup, camera ready. The formers and I joke about, like, you don't really have time to eat. Like, you can probably get like one meal a day when your schedule is that busy. So I don't know, it just seems like how did we get here now? But also I would love to get back to that.
Yeah. Well, speaking of fortitude, now I read that you've played the piano for a very long time. Is it correct? 17 years?
Yes.
Okay, that's a very long time. That was your talent portion of the competition, correct?
Correct.
So one, let me ask you your favorite piece. What is your favorite piece, if you have one?
When I was second runner up to Miss Arizona, I won the talent preliminary, and I played Pirates of the Caribbean, which you can look it up on YouTube. The arrangement is by Jared Radnick, and it's a really fun song. It's technically difficult, but it's also a crowd pleaser, and most people can recognize the theme song for Pirates of the Caribbean. They're personally my favorite movies. So that might hurt my piano teacher's heart to not pick a classical piece after all the Chopin and Bach and Beethoven. But it's a super fun piece to play. It's a crowd pleaser, and I'll always have good memories attached since I won a preliminary award with that.
Apparently it was the right piece of music to choose over your classical composers. All right, favorite, because I love classical music. So favorite composer.
Beethoven, without a doubt.
Okay. Well, that's arguably the best, the best one. So, there's typically the big three, but yeah. Fantastic. So now, word on the street, according to what I've read, you're planning on going into law. Now, I think I read Georgetown law, but I couldn't find that website again to where it said that. So I don't know if you're going to Georgetown. I may have just thrown that out there, but you're going into law. Where are you going to go, and what type of law are you going to be studying? Because I would prefer that you obviously study constitutional law, but that's just part of the show.
Well, that's the funny thing about that is I have loved history ever since I can remember. My favorite time in history is the American Revolution. I love reading books about that, studying about that. Here in Arizona, we used to have these festivals where people would dress up and reenact the battles, and still to this day, those are some of my favorite memories. Yeah. I had to convince my father, or he told me I couldn't be a history major in college, but that was my first choice. I met a professor. He's the head of the history department. And so, yes, much, much love for constitutional law and all history majors. I definitely want to go into civil litigation. I would love to be in the courtroom. I had the pleasure of working for a Trump-appointed judge over the last couple of years, and I got to hands-on experience to see what it was like. I helped him with his Senate Judiciary questionnaire from going from a private citizen to a federal employee and judge, and it was an incredible experience. He is an incredible orator. He has made an incredible judge during the last year or so, and I'm really excited to see what he's going to do and how he's going to impact our laws here in Arizona moving forward. So civil litigation is broad, but I like business. I like corporate law. I also think it would be fascinating to be a prosecutor. I have a really strong sense of justice. I always have ever since I was little. Yeah. So some combination of that. But yes, I'm applying for Georgetown Law class of 2021. So hopefully once the weirdness of COVID settles down, we can go back to a more traditional schedule of going to class in person. Right. Then I'll go to law school.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic. Georgetown Law, top tier right there. So I wish you all the best. All right. So you started an organization called Lady Leaders Empower. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you go check out our website, it's ladyleadersempower.com, not ladyleaders.com. That website belongs to some crazy people. So don't go check that out. I ran across that. I'm like, this is probably not her website. So what is the goal of Lady Leaders Empower, and how do you end up accomplishing that?
The goal of Lady Leaders Empower is to give women and girls the resources, tools, and mentors that they need to be successful in their career field. I had the idea for this when I was a junior and senior in high school, because I went to a private high school and all of the resources were allocated towards the boys. The highest position I was afforded in student government was secretary, because I don't know exactly how it is now, but at least back then they didn't let any of the females be in any higher leadership positions than the males. Yeah. So I sat in a boardroom full of men from the 7th grade up to the highest administration and faculty. And I wasn't allowed to participate in the conversations because I was the only female, and I was the secretary. And I always felt like they were missing an entirely other side of the conversation, because there was no women to join in on this conversation. Mm-hmm. And that's when I decided that I was going to make sure that that didn't happen to any other girl that I knew of from that point going forward.
Yeah.
I was also really inspired by the book Lean In by Sheryl Sandberg, the COO of Facebook.
Yeah.
That is a really great resource, especially for college graduates, specifically women now graduating and going into the workforce. Just like really practical tips for that transition. And I had some really, really great female mentors at my undergraduate university here in Arizona that encouraged me, gave me resources, and that is how Lady Leaders was born.
So you went to Grand Canyon University.
Correct.
What was that about? Or not what was that about, but how was that experience? You were also part of something called Honors College.
Mm-hmm.
Give me a little bit about that as well.
I love my time at Grand Canyon University. I had been in private schools my entire life, so I didn't want to just jump into a public university. And they had exactly the major that I wanted. And I knew that because of the smaller environment, I could work with the top people easier than if I went to like the massive public university here in Arizona, like ASU. So I definitely had a specific strategy going in and picking that school. And the Honors College is a subset of GCU. It's a college within the university, and it's the top tier students, the top 5%. They come in and maintain the highest GPAs, the best resumes. They do the most extracurricular activities, volunteer work, and they have the best resources throughout the college. My class of what year did I graduate? 2017. So 2013 was the inaugural class. So we were kind of the guinea pigs for this program. And since then, it's just completely taken off with so many more resources and everything. Yeah. And my time at GCU was really, because it was like we were just starting the Honors College, there was limitless opportunity. So I got to work with their marketing and PR division. I got to help start their social media. I wrote an initial social media guide from things that I learned at the Miss America organization, because I competed my entire time during undergrad. Okay. And I pioneered their political internship programs. So still to this day, there's a photo of me in like the White House press room, highlighting like different internships and things that you can do during your time in undergrad.
Wow. That's amazing. My time in college, I had zero plan. I was like, degree, that's what I'm going for, and let's just everybody get out of my way. I don't know what I'm doing here. So speaking of the Lady Leaders Empower, what, from your perspective, and obviously you have an image in mind at least, what does an empowered lady look like?
I know that you asked me another question or email, so we're going to have to come back to this because I love this topic. But I think that an empowered woman looks like she doesn't believe any of the limitations that other people put on her or she thinks society puts on her. No matter what the laws are or how many no's that she gets, she goes after what she wants, and she does it in an ethical, feminine, moral way. Mm-hmm. And in one of your initial questions for this, you asked me why I chose Lady Leader, and that was very specific.
I was going to get to that. Yeah.
Definitely. Yes, that was very specific and very intentional.
Okay.
Because I am all about creating women that are feminine in their leadership. I think that there's this like cultural war that's going on right now with men and women are created equal, and like, yes, we are created equal, but we have different inherent traits, and that's what makes it beautiful. That's why our society functions and flourishes. And the fact that women are empathetic and they can be sometimes more compassionate than men, and they just have like an innate nurturing ability that's given to us from God, like that's really specific. And I do, through Lady Leaders, encourage women in their femininity. It's okay to be loving, it's okay to be emotional at times, because you're bringing a different perspective to the conversation that helps make our society a better place.
Yeah, no, I wanted to point that out because it sort of stood out to me, because I think there is this cultural war that is going on to where it's just like you're trying to combine the two as the same, and and
Mhm.
it's so obvious that it's not the same. And you can still, like you said, go after the things that you want to go after, regardless of the no's and different things like that. And I think it's an important way. And one of the powerful words that you said was ethical. And I think that regardless of gender, I think that's a problem that we continue to run in over the decades, is the lack of ethics within how we go for either powerful positions or just positions in general. So I think that's incredibly important on that scale. Who is one of the women in your life that made probably the biggest impact?
The dean of the honors college, her name's Brianna Nagley. I'm so inspired by her. She just finished her PhD, and she has built the honors college at Grand Canyon University from the ground up. She's got married and started a family in the meantime. And she, even though she's done all these incredible things, it's never about her. It's always about my students and the great things that they're doing and what other resources we can bring in to make them more successful. And I think she's
Yeah.
a beautiful example of really servant leadership, because she's up for an award right now that I'm probably not allowed to talk about because the nominations haven't come out yet.
Break the
But
news. Break the news here.
I'm so thrilled for her to be up for this particular award here in Arizona, because she has been so selfless in everything that she's done behind the scenes, and it's really awesome to see her being recognized by the powers that be and other leaders in our community. And she's definitely someone that, she's just like so sweet. I was actually asked to be the keynote speaker of the honors banquet this year before coronavirus shut everything down, and it was honestly the highlight of my entire year. It was going to be my most looked forward to favorite event, because that's just like what I wanted the last 4 years, is to be that person that she called on to ask to speak to everyone. And I'm so grateful that she believed in me, that she took a chance, and
Yeah.
that we continue to have a great relationship.
Well, I mean, just do it on Zoom. That's what everybody's doing. Do the whole
No,
thing.
no, we did. We recorded it, and they put together a great video that's on YouTube now.
Okay.
It's not the same as being in person.
No, it's not the same. And I hope that more people come to realize that, because I'm hearing so many people that I know, even personally, it's just like, it's too dangerous to go outside. I'm like, okay, that conversation needs to end right now.
Absolutely.
So here's another question that I wanted to get to, and this may be a longer part of the conversation, but I'd like to get your view on the idea of women's rights. First, from a global perspective, and then from a national perspective.
I'm assuming that you're talking about this because of everything that's going on with the Istanbul Convention right now and the social media challenges that we've seen.
No, I mean, that is a small part of it, but I think the push for women's rights obviously has been an ongoing thing. I mean, obviously we can go back to here in the U.S., 1920, when women's suffrage, but we can go further back. We can reference Abigail Adams and how she was, her and John Adams were always going back and forth, and she's like, you better freaking make sure that women are on the same playing field. And John was like, I'm going to be in my office. So, and but it's been an ongoing struggle to get women on the same playing field. But obviously a ton of progress has been made. And I can, obviously just speak to the U.S., but I'm quite certain, especially in Western civilization, but I'm sure, I mean, look, in Iraq, women are starting to drive now, or Saudi Arabia, actually, now they get to drive. So,
Right.
it's very like east, west, certain areas. The idea of women's rights is very different. I want to get your perspective on the global part, and you can throw in the Istanbul, the challenge accepted, and then move into America.
I think that first and foremost, I think that America has made the most progress with equality for everyone. But let's just talk about men and women for right now. And without a doubt, right now is the best time in history to be a woman and live in the United States. The freedoms that we've been given, the right to vote, the things, and we can sit here and probably debate other statistics and politics, but like bottom line, that is the truth. Now, from a global perspective, I think a lot of countries, specifically in the Middle East, have a long way to come. It breaks my heart when we, for example, this black and white challenge on social media is referring to women in Turkey that have been brutally murdered or attacked, whatever, specifically because of their gender. And I think that the UN should be much more involved with these human rights violations. And I think that there are just such strongholds with religions in the Middle East, and also just like purely evil people that think that they're better than whether it's a man or a woman or a person of color or whatever. And I think at the end of the day, it's really a fight between good and evil. And I'm so grateful for what President Trump and Ivanka are doing with their Women's Global Initiative development, and how they're making an invested effort to give opportunities and resources to women's and undeveloped countries to help them become entrepreneurs and to make an income for their family and to better their life. And I think we need to see more of that sort of work from an economic perspective, and that'll help the global rights situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's more than just saying, hey, here's what's taking place, but it's like, okay, do so. And I think more people need to understand, like, from an economic perspective, like if you don't help somebody economically, then you're really not helping them to move forward in their life and to make their life better. It sort of goes back to the Bill Clinton slogan back in the 90s. It's the economy, stupid. So it's like, if you don't help them economically, then you are sort of putting them back right to where they started from.
Right.
So I think opening up doors, opening up opportunities. Obviously, there are a lot of I've run across a lot of organizations, charities here in the U.S. that go to these third world countries and create job opportunities, and not just job opportunities like you work for me, but here's a trade that you were able to learn, and now you can go and start your own business, and you can
Mm-hmm.
provide for yourself and for your family. It's the whole, teach a man to fish.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that.
You feed them for a lifetime, and I think that's incredibly important. So obviously Middle East, various countries, you can talk about Western civilization, Europe, and then you also have Latin America as well, and it's just a little bit of the levels are different. And you make a very valid point that the U.S. it's the best time to live in America as a woman, and we see that from a political perspective, from CEOs and major corporations, and just regular work environment. You see the playing field leveling out. But from your perspective, when you hear people maybe even marching in the streets and they're saying women's rights, we want women's rights, and let's just stick to the U.S., what is it that they're referencing?
Well, the Women's March that happened shortly after President Trump's inauguration comes to mind, and I think of a lot of vulgarity, and they're talking about things like reproductive rights and abortions and contraceptives and healthcare and insurance, and I think that there is something to be said for that. But I have made a very conscious effort with lady leaders in making sure that I'm not aligning myself with liberal feminism, because I think that that's very different than the feminism that we saw from like the Seneca Falls Convention, where we're purely just getting women a seat at the conversation. Right. I think that particularly the marches are very far left of what I believe personally. And I think, yes, for example, President Trump is the first president to authorize paid paternity leave, which helps families, like the core family, all together. And I think at the end of the day, the main difference is coming down to what I mentioned earlier with like God just made men and women differently. So we're always going to be having these debates because women physically bear children. So there's always going to be this debate of the gender wage gap and like who runs the household and things like that. And I think that that's like completely missing the mark of the conversation because we can't change our biology. We are who we are meant to be when we're born, the moment we come into this earth. And I think it's what you do with that. And I've made a very, very conscious effort with lady leaders that whenever I have the time to invest and mentor specifically a girl, and when I'm speaking on a panel and when I invite panelists that are from all different backgrounds, all spheres of the political field, I make sure that their message is always empowering, like regardless of what they believe. And it's empowering to these girls, specifically here in America, that like this is a land of freedom and opportunity and liberty. And if you work hard and you have integrity, there is nothing that you can't accomplish.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. But do you run into much pushback or any pushback at all whenever you say the things that you say?
Well, yes and no. So typically, title holders are not supposed to be politically involved. So we're told to stay PC, which I think that that is a very valid point. So like as Miss Arizona, my job is not to advocate for a partisan party, but I'm never going to compromise on my values. And my values, first and foremost, are always going to be determined by my faith, my Christian faith. And then after that, things start to come down along the line for policies that are in alignment with my faith.
Yeah. And see, and I get the opportunity to be as controversial as I want to be. But that was sort of my question, is that I see a lot of the marches that go on, and it's like, we want women's rights. And it seems to be around one particular thing in particular, which is reproductive rights, or they call it reproductive rights. Really, it's abortion rights.
Exactly.
And then also the wage gap, which is another thing that really bothers me, because it's like, even President Obama, when he was in office, I'm not throwing him out there just because he's repeating probably what was told to him by his economists or whoever. But it's like it's 75 cents to $1, 77 cents to 81 cents to $1. It's like, well, and you're not even looking at the accurate numbers, and it was pretty easy to just look at it, and it was sort of debunked quickly, but it kept going. It's like, we don't care if you debunked, the whole thing that you're comparing apples to oranges.
Right.
That's not important. What's important is the narrative that we want to push. And I commend you for saying, you know what, we're going to be ethical. We're going to, you're going to have integrity in everything that you do. And I think unfortunately, that's a difficult thing for people to do, especially if they're wanting to get into certain positions of leadership. And,
absolutely.
but at the same time, it's like, what kind of leader are you going to be if you have no integrity? So
no, absolutely. And to your point about the marches, you hit the nail on the head when you said it really is surrounding one issue. These women want to talk about abortion specifically, but it's like, okay, well, what are you doing to help a single mother that is now pregnant? What resources are you giving her? How are you empowering her? What are you doing to teach her how to provide for herself and her child? This idea of women's rights is so much more broad than the pink tax or what's happening at Planned Parenthoods. It's so much more broad than people realize, but these marches are so popular because of the narrative that they're defending. And yes, it sounds good, but in reality, what are you doing to actually combat and fix the situation or to make it better for people? Because at the end of the day, at the end of your life, if you didn't do if you didn't give of your time and blessing and resources to help someone else, what was your life? What did you do with the time that you were given when you were here?
Yeah. No, 100%. I love it. All right. Here's a question that you've probably been asked before. If there was one thing you could change in the world, you know, don't say world peace or I'll end this conversation right here and now. Now, if there was one thing you could change about society, what would it be? And if you respond with, well, that's a stupid question, then we will definitely move on. So it's sort of a tongue-in-cheek question.
No such thing as a stupid question. One thing that I've come to realize over the span of this year with all the different human and social interactions that I had is that I wish people would just take the time to sit and listen to other people. Mm-hmm. And I guess the phrase, not judge a book by its cover, because the older I get, the more I want my life in neat, tidy boxes, and the less it becomes like that, it seems. Mm-hmm. And I really want to make sure that in my relationships, like the theme that keeps coming up is leading with integrity, and that we really see people as not their mistakes or their successes or their failures, but rather just who they are as people, and judge each other off of the character, not anything else.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And so do you think, so there's a lot that I would love to cover, but let me ask you this, because there's this push to, here's what I find somewhat humorous to me. So I had Morgan Zegers on the show a couple of weeks ago.
Yes, I saw.
And, yeah,
big fan of her.
So she's fantastic. And so I threw some statistics at her about, well, it's millennials, then Gen X, and baby boomers, but all of them have this somewhat negative view of big business, right? But it seems to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to me that there is a constant push for men and women, but it seems to me that it's almost getting to the point where it's, you know, a push for more women to do this, to get into corporate America, to get into the thing that, to an extent, a lot of people despise. Do you see anything, you know, like ironic about that? And do you think that people sort of go after those types of goals at their own peril?
Ooh, that's an interesting question, especially what you were just saying, at their own peril. I was listening to a podcast earlier today that was throwing around statistics with women representation and how it's like women in the U.S. Congress, there's less than 25%, and for Fortune 500 CEOs, so these big corporate businesses, it's less than 6% of women that sit in the C-suite offices. And yet you are talking about the statistics that say, you know, corporate greed is bad, these big businesses are bad, whatever. Okay, you can't have your cake and eat it too. Which one is it? Is it bad? Do we need more women? Do we need more people of color? So I think there's definitely a discrepancy in the narrative with that. But I think that people are moving away from this idea of a corporate structure. Like, I grew up with entrepreneurs on both sides of my family. I feel like a huge part of the American dream, and everyone's dream is different, but a huge part of the American dream is to work for yourself, to make your own hours, to be able to contribute how you want to contribute, pay your employees, give to the organizations that you want to give to, and not have someone else have control over you. Right. So I think it'll be interesting as Gen Z grows up and kind of has to grapple with these things that the culture has been throwing on them. But at the end of the day, when you think about the economy and everything that's happening right now with coronavirus, these big businesses are some of the people that have saved us from everything that's happening. The backbone of America is small businesses, and that's who's been hit the hardest by the shutdowns and these regulations. And I don't know, I just think that that's really something that we need to make sure that we're teaching the next generation of, okay, well, what do you want to look like? And again, where's your integrity, and what's the difference that you want to make in the world?
Right. I think that, and you've said that apparently you keep hearing the term or the word integrity. And honestly, like my parents, like I grew up in a pastor's home. And so it was all like, you better have character integrity. It's what
Mm-hmm.
who you are when nobody's watching you. That's what it comes down to. And I think that, you go into corporate America, you'll be fine if you have that very first thing, which is integrity. If you have that foundation there. And speaking of foundation, I think that when you come across a lot of people, and I talk about this a lot, where people don't have foundational structure from a religious perspective, from a country perspective. They don't. There's so many people, and I have said it on the show. Like, there's a lot of people in Congress who probably have never read the Constitution. And so the foundational structure, I think, is part of the problem with what's going on. But speaking of small businesses, that's another worry, and a bit of irony as well, is I'm sure your governor did it, our governor did it. Let's shut down the small businesses, but we can allow the Walmarts and the HEBs and
Right.
Targets to remain open. And you're like, you've got to be kidding me, And so, to an extent, America is based on freedom, and the ultimate freedom is being your own boss. And I think that, I don't want to get into some sinister plan afoot, but it's just very alarming that it is the small businesses that are being crushed the most with everything that's been going on. So I think
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and I almost feel like it is intentional as well, because President Trump, for every one regulation that the federal government implements, they get rid of 23 former federal regulations. And I love
they
using
jumped
that.
it up. Okay, wow.
Yes, I love using that statistic, because my father is a small business owner. He has felt those, because of those regulations being gone, his business has been able to grow and flourish and expand to other states. And I just think it's very interesting, with this year being an election year, that the things that were going so well for President Trump are now being attacked, like the economy and small business owners. I think, I don't know, I love my history, and I love a good conspiracy theory.
Yeah, I do too. But I mean, look, eventually, well, I'm not going to get into it. Not going to get into it. We can message back and forth on some of that.
Sounds good.
So last question. You are impacting people's lives, especially those who are younger than you, who are coming up in the world. And you've said that you've talked to some of the young girls, and with the Lady Leaders in Power, you were speaking to girls from, some of the things that we've talked about tonight, which is integrity, ethics, work hard, go after what you're going after, but go after it in the right way. And it's mentorship, and I'm involved with Young Life. I love Young Life, so I get to mentor some of the kids and really be able to spend some good quality time with them, and I've been wanting to do that. But what do you think kids are missing the most today?
Role models. That's the first thing that comes to mind. And that's exactly a huge reason why I started Lady Leaders shortly after high school, because I felt like I didn't have any female role models to look up to. And when I graduated from high school, social media was not what it is today. I didn't even get an Instagram until I think I was 18 years old. So I was pretty much almost done with high school by that time, gone through like the hard formative years without all of this craziness that's going on. And I feel like they're inundated constantly because of how quickly the internet moves and technology, and it's hard for them to decipher what is truth and who can I trust. And I think that that's why we're seeing a lot of Gen Z having issues with like depression, and the suicide rates are going up in alarming ways that we haven't seen from previous generations, because of the pressure and peer pressure that comes from social media and acting like your life is perfect and you have all these cool things. And that's why I think Lady Leaders is so important. And I'm excited to expand it even after my time as Miss Arizona. I think something that was different about me, and partially a reason why I won, is because I came into the program with a platform as opposed to creating a platform because of the program. And that's a very important distinction, because a lot of times girls come into the program and they have good intentions, but they don't have a specific issue that they're very passionate about giving
Right.
a lot of time and energy and resources to. And not to say that the girls that create something during the process that's bad or it doesn't work. A lot of those things are very great too.
Yeah.
But I just always had a plan with what I wanted to do with Lady Leaders, and we'll have more freedom to be able to expand on that after my time is officially done as Miss Arizona. And a little bit to go back to your question just before this about if I've gotten a hard time with my values. So I would say yes and no. I talked with one of my mentors extensively about this. I feel like things were really, for until like the last 6 months, things, especially within Miss America, were not this political. It seems like right now everything is a political issue.
Everything.
Like how the doctor's response to the coronavirus, to where you shop, to where you get your coffee, like it's just craziness. This is a completely different environment that I've experienced over the last several years of competing. So it's kind of not even a question of if I was more vocal about my conservative values, but there was a very poignant moment over the last couple of months where I had this time, like, I cannot be silent anymore over what's going on. And this, I always wanted to be Miss Arizona to advocate first and foremost for my faith, but secondly, for conservative principles. And I will always have this attached to my name now to be able to share things that are empowering and that work for people, that help them have a better life. But my mentor, I was talking to her about this, how I didn't get as much media exposure as I wanted from different events or whatever. And she said, and this has really stuck with me, there's blessing in obscurity. Your time is coming. And I think, and she also has this quote that says, God doesn't give you something before you're ready for it. So I think it's so important to keep those things in mind. I think it's a huge blessing that I haven't had like massive social media trolls, considering the cancel culture that is just waging war on so many people right now. But that being said, when I decided to come out as conservative, I was accepting the consequences of all of that, because I'm never gonna back down from this. This is my life. This is what I'm advocating for from this day forward. And it's also different now because I'm never going to compete again. So it's like a completely different dynamic than it was previously. But I really think it's time that the silent majority be silent no longer, and we help take back our country.
Yeah. And I think to your point, I think Jim, who's made a couple of comments here lately, I think he brought up a couple of good things. One, role models and religion. Religion is one of those things that is what I was talking about. A structural foundation is part of that. If you don't have religion, or if you don't have people in your like your parents who brought you into that and gave you that structural foundation, role models are even more important, because then they can impart some of that, which I have been able to do with some of the kids as well, and just be like, here, here's what the Bible says. Here's what you've been listening to. Don't listen to that. So,
no, and that is a huge point as well, because our culture is just getting more and more godless, like no form of religion. And I think that's so sad as well. Like, I can see a difference in my friends that were raised in a household that went attending some church, having some foundation, as opposed to those who didn't. And I used to wonder what life would be like without being raised with any sort of religion or believing in something bigger than yourself. And the conclusion that I've come to is that it's hopeless. And that is kind of the response that we're seeing from these teenagers and the different things that are affecting them and that they're turning to. But I love that you are involved with Young Life. I'm actually going to hang out with people after this that all know each other from Young Life for high school. So it's a great organization. I'm a huge advocate of it.
Well, fantastic. Glad to hear that. Yeah. So, well, Thank you very much, Jacqueline. This has been a great conversation. Instagram only allows us an hour, and we are close to the time, so I don't want it to be like, all of a sudden
Right.
cut out while we're in the middle of conversation. So thank you so much for being on the show. Really appreciate it. Thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. Thank you for everything that you're doing. Stay strong. So, and I wish you the very best. Hopefully getting into Georgetown and killing it in law. We need more lawyers, prosecutors, judges who are people of integrity.
Right.
Not just, I'm sick and tired of seeing lawyers and prosecutors getting in who are just trash bags, and they're just there to get up the ladder and destroy people's lives. So I have a feeling you won't be one of those people. So.
No, that is not the plan. Lawyers with integrity, absolutely.
Fantastic. All right, Jacqueline, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Jacqueline Thomas. She is the current reigning Miss Arizona. So give her an applause, and we'll talk to you later, Jacqueline. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye-bye. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Miss Jacqueline Thomas. Thank you so much for spending time with us on the Sons of History. Every Thursday night, you can check us out. Huzzah! Yeah. Thank you, Alan. Yeah, you can check us out every Thursday night here at 9 p.m. Central Time, always having a great guest. Next week is going to be a little bit different. Actually having to change it up and have somebody in the morning, but you'll be able to see this on IGTV regardless. Actually going to have Connor Boyack on the show. He is the founder and creator of the Tuttle Twins. That's going to be a conversation I think you'll really enjoy. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is it. Thank you again, Miss Arizona Jacqueline Thomas. We'll talk to you later. Now, wasn't that a great conversation? We really hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, do us a favor and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you don't mind, like and comment on this video. While you're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and try to figure out my next move. Anywho. Nope. Oh. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Checkmate. Checkmate. What are you, blind? Could you not see this? You couldn't see this? Unbelievable. Okay, that's the game. That's the game. I don't even understand what you're playing. Oh, it wasn't even my turn, was it? My bad.